It's no secret, I love Chris Evans. And I love Captain America. Captain America was the single hardest character to launch in this universe. This kind of guy out of time, and is it too retro? Are people gonna get it? Once he committed 1,000%. You know, he stands there, tells the truth, and then kicks ass.
He really is the patriarch. I think he really understood the weight of the responsibility with these movies.
Every time I see Evans, he's like more and more like Cap. It's like we've invested him with that. And Chris is up for that because that's what makes it exciting and different.
Hey everyone, this is the Canadian Lad, and today I'm gonna talk about something really different. Have you ever thought about the friendship between Iron Man and Captain America? Out of all the movies that there are in the MCU, has it ever crossed your mind that are they really good friends or just two guys who just happen to be working together to save the world? Well, this video will clear all your doubts and give you an exact answer, so without any further ado, let's dive in. Yes, they were friends. However, they were not as close as Stark and Rhodes, or Steve Rogers and Bucky. What the hell, even Cap and Thor have a closer relationship than Stark and Steve Rogers. But they're still friends. Yes, in Avengers 1 they bickered and got off on the wrong foot.
Big man in a suit of armor. Take that off, what are you?
Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
I know guys with none of that worth 10 of you. I've seen the footage. The only thing you really fight for is yourself. You're not the guy to make the sacrifice play, to lay down on a wire and let the other guy crawl over you.
I think I would just cut the wire.
There's a way out. You know, you may not be a threat, but you better stop pretending to be a hero.
A hero? Like you? You're a laboratory experiment, Rogers. Everything special about you came out of a bottle.
But that was because Cap was literally waking from his sleep. That's like you waking up from 2019 to 2099. Time will definitely change. In the future, there will be morals that will challenge your own perspective. Then in Avengers 2, they argue in the farm. Cap is just relaxing, venting out his frustration on the logs. Then Tony Stark kind of initiates the argument and trading the first blow.
Earth's mightiest heroes. Pulled us apart like cotton candy.
Seems like you walked away all right.
Is that a problem?
I don't trust a guy without a dark side. Call me old-fashioned.
Well, let's just say you haven't seen it yet.
You know Ultron's trying to tear us apart, right?
Well, I guess you'd know. Whether you tell us is a bit of a question.
Banner and I were doing research.
That would affect the team.
That would end the team. Isn't that the mission? Isn't that the why we fight? So we can end the fight? So we get to go home?
Every time someone tries to win a war before it starts, innocent people die. Every time.
Now look, I get it. Cap should have told Stark about his parents. He's a hypocrite that he criticizes Tony on keeping secrets, but Rogers is keeping a secret too. He didn't tell Stark about his dad's death. But the Tony Stark fans ignore that Stark is a witty and quippy guy, which means that in an argument, he will insult first or initiate the argument. No wonder Thor likes Steve Rogers more. But that's normal. Friends argue with each other. If any friends don't argue, then let's face it, the friendship won't be interesting. And a big example is of Iron Man and Hawkeye. They're friends and they're never seen arguing with each other, which isn't good for storytelling, or at least is not interesting enough for the audience to see. Anyway, getting back to Steve Rogers and Tony Stark, they seem pretty normal. At the end of Age of Ultron, it looks like Steve Rogers is the only one besides Thor that Tony Stark says goodbye to. He seems not to say goodbye to Nick Fury or Black Widow.
I'm gonna miss him though. And you're gonna miss me. It's gonna be a lot of manful tears. I will. You alright?
I'm home.
In fact, at the end, Steve Rogers admits that he will miss Tony, and it's very rare that Steve Rogers lie.
I will miss you, Tony.
Yeah? Well, it's time for me to tap out.
Then in Captain America Civil War, they argue again, but it's because of their different experiences. Cap's experience with seeing Hydra taking over S.H.I.E.L.D., Tony Stark's experience with seeing the Chitauri invasion. Now, if we're talking when Steve says, "You can't hurt Bucky, Tony, he was mind-controlled, he's my friend," and Stark just says, "So was I." Even though Tony Stark was a little bit of jealous about his dad liking Steve Rogers over him, despite all their differences, at that time, Tony Stark still considered Steve Rogers as his friend, not his best friend. Heck, Bruce Banner is more closer to Tony than Steve, but still, Steve was his friend. Now you may disagree, but think about it. Think about Tony's relationship with Clint or Maria Hale or Natasha. They were associates, work buddies, but not friends. They barely talked to each other. On the other hand, Steve and Tony were always bickering, but that's what friends do. For example, Tony gave Steve Rogers pens that was used by FDR to allow the USA to go to World War II.
1941. Provided support to the Allies when they needed it most.
Some would say it brought our country closer to war.
See, if not for these, you wouldn't be here. I'm trying to, what do you call it? That's an olive branch. Is that what you call it?
Yeah, that could be an extra nudge for Steve Rogers to sign it because it was signed by the president himself. But still, it was a secret, and only Steve Rogers know about this. In fact, Steve Rogers is so close to Stark that he even knows that Pepper is going to be pregnant 2 years later.
Kind of pregnant.
Alright, that was a joke. But Stark still considers Rogers his friend. If it were Clint or Falcon rebelling, he wouldn't care. But he mentions that everyone needs Captain America because he's a good person. He even freaking admits that Stark doesn't want to see Cap gone. Tony Stark, an arrogant narcissist, admits that he doesn't want to see Cap gone.
But I don't want to see you gone. We need you, Cap. So far, nothing's happened that can't be undone if you sign.
You can see Stark's pained expression in that conversation, and Stark definitely wasn't lying. We as the audience can tell if Stark is lying. At the end of Civil War, Tony Stark allows Steve Rogers to free his friends. If he still considered Steve his enemy, he would have sent reinforcements or tell someone else. Pretty strange for a hero to let his enemy succeed on purpose. So in conclusion, yes, even though they had their bickering issues, even though Stark is kinda jealous that his own dad likes Steve Rogers over his own son and neglects him, but they were still close friends. By the way, this misconception of Tony Stark that his own father liked Cap more than him was answered in Avengers Endgame. When Tony Stark goes back in time in the year 1970 and sees his own his father actually admits to him that there's nothing in the world I wouldn't do for that kid even though he's not here, obviously referring to his unborn son, Tony Stark.
I tell you, that kid's not even here yet, and there's nothing I wouldn't do for him.
That exact moment, Tony realized no matter what, his father actually loved him more than anybody else. So that moment probably reinforced Tony's friendship with Cap, because he now no longer has any jealousy over his father liking Steve Rogers more than him. After Captain America Civil War, Tony Stark still holds Steve Rogers in high regard and respect. In Spider-Man Homecoming, Peter Parker says, "Dude, I can handle this Vulture guy. In fact, didn't you send me out to fight against Captain America? You said I was good. I'm ready for more." Iron Man says, "No, you're not." Spider-Man says, "That's not what you thought when I took on Captain America." Iron Man then replies, "Trust me, kid, if Cap really wanted to, he would have beat you up much more quicker."
Can't you just be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man?
But I'm ready for more than that now.
No, you're not.
That is not what you thought when I took on Captain America.
Trust me, kid. If Cap wanted to lay you out, he would have.
Now for Steve Rogers to be technically a fugitive and an enemy against Tony Stark, it is really strange for a hero to talk highly of a villain like that, so Rogers is still considered Stark's friend. And in Avengers Infinity War, Ross tells Rogers, "And you think all is forgiven?" Steve Rogers says, "I'm not looking for permission, and I'm way past asking for forgiveness. Earth just lost her best defender."
The world's on fire, and you think all's forgiven?
I'm not looking for forgiveness, and I'm way past asking permission. Earth just lost her best defender, so we're here to fight. And if you want to stand in our way, we'll fight you too.
Now it doesn't take a genius to figure out that Rogers considers Tony Stark as Earth's best defender. They are definitely friends, not like Stark and Bruce Banner or Steve and Thor, but definitely friends with a lot of respect to each other. And that's my conclusion on the friendship of Steve Rogers and Tony Stark. In the deleted scene of Avengers Endgame, where everybody kneels down to pay respect to Tony Stark, just look at the way Cap falls on his knees, shattered and broken from the inside, because he just lost a friend, one true friend, who he disagreed with a lot but never hated each other's gut. If for once necessary, Cap would have laid down his life the same way Tony did for him and the rest of the world. And to end this video, I'd say it doesn't matter that Cap and Tony were not best friends. What matters is, did they care about each other? Did they trust each other? And the answer is...
I do.